Okay, I wasn't sure if I should make this video, but here we are. So I feel I want to share my experience and what I've gone through and what's happened to me. Now, just for the record, this is not an anti-vax video. This is not a sympathy video. This is purely my experience, what's happened to me, and maybe it will benefit someone else out there who's perhaps going through something similar, or just honestly, I feel like people need to know about what's actually happening out there. So, this is a story about my Pfizer vaccination experience. And for those that don't know me, my name's Ben. I'm currently 31 years old. I live in Australia, in Melbourne. So, I'm just going to do this off the cuff. I'm probably going to be like going back and forth through the story and things like that because I haven't really planned it. I've got a couple of dot points that I want to touch on, but overall, it's just going to be just me just talking in front of the camera and just telling you about what happened to me. So I got vaccinated on the 23rd of September at one of those pop-up vac clinics. So it's pretty popular here. There's some like council offices and things like that get turned into a big vaccination hub, so people can get vaccinated quickly, and you can do a lot of vaccinations all at once. So yes, I got vaccinated on the 23rd of September this year. It's been almost 6 weeks. I didn't want to make this video straight away just in case, I was overreacting, and I really wanted to kind of think about what's happened to my body and how I've been feeling. So I feel like I've had enough time to kind of process that. It's been from the 23rd of September. Today it's currently the 2nd of November. So I got vaccinated at one of those clinics. Pretty straightforward, I assume. Probably a lot of people get vaccinated there. It's not a big deal. So when I got appointed my nurse, you sit down next to them, you have a bit of a small talk. I asked a couple of questions. He told me to roll up my sleeve, so roll up my sleeve. He showed me the needle, it said Pfizer. And before he was going to put it in, I kind of questioned him, and I'm like, hey, are you meant to do like a little alcoholic swab thing here? And he just kind of looked at me, and I was like, all right, well, you're the nurse. I fix computers. I don't know anything about medicine so anyway. I just thought it was funny because, well, when I normally get an injection or a blood test or something like that, they normally swab your arm down with alcohol or something, I assume, to sanitize. Anyway, so he gave me the jab, all good. It honestly wasn't really very painful, or, I didn't really think much of it. I was like, wow, that's it, cool. I'll go sit down in the waiting area. I was told to wait there for 15 minutes, and if anything felt amiss, to raise my hand. So almost immediately after receiving a jab, I did get a weird kind of metallic-y taste in my mouth. It was not quite like anything I've ever eaten before, and I eat a lot of food, and a lot of different types of food I love eating. And I never tasted this before in my life, so this was a really weird sensation. I just figured, I've been injected with something. Obviously, there's going to be some minor weird things happening. So, probably 30 seconds or so would pass. I'm sitting down, sort of surveying the room, just looking around, seeing what everyone else is up to. There was a lot of people there. There was probably maybe 20 or 30 nurses administering vaccines. There was lots of people getting vaccinated, and, we all had chairs everywhere, and we were sitting like a gap between chairs to maintain social distancing. So it was all pretty much above board, I guess. Like, I didn't really think anything bad was going to happen. So within probably a minute after sitting down, that taste started to get quite strong in my mouth. I started to feel a little bit lightheaded, and I was like, oh no, talking to myself, I'm okay, I'm going to be fine. It's all good. And I kind of looked around the room, and my vision started to go blurry. It was almost like out of a movie when you see that first person clip on the movie, and everything starts to go blurry. And it was that point that I had raised my hand, and as soon as I raised my hand, I remember just everything going black, and I don't know how long had passed, but I woke up on the floor looking at 3 people. Okay, we had 2 females and a male, and I took a second or so to realize where I was and what was happening, and I was like, oh shit, like I'd passed out. And immediately my questions were, did I hit my head, and how long have I been out for? And thankfully someone actually caught me before I hit the ground. I guess they just grabbed me, so apparently they placed me down gently, which was amazing because you can really get seriously injured from passing out or fainting. That blunt trauma can be pretty bad. So yeah, I laid on the ground for quite a while, maybe 3 to 5 minutes or so, just to kind of process what has happened and just to kind of start to feel a little bit normal, because I was very lightheaded and just didn't feel quite right. So they helped me get up eventually and put me in a wheelchair and took me around the side, where it was a little bit more private, and they checked my blood pressure and my pulse, I believe, and those were returning pretty normal figures. So that was a good sign, but I definitely felt not quite right, like something, I'd never felt like that in my life. Something was definitely wrong. So I decided to hang around at the clinic for probably a good 60 minutes or so about an hour, just kind of pacing around, making sure I was okay. Like I drove there, so I didn't want to get in the car and potentially pass out again, or cause an accident or something like that. So in hindsight, probably should not have driven home, but I realized, look, I figured, fuck, it's been an hour, I should be right. So I was starting to feel a bit cold, like there was some weird, like I was shaking quite a bit as well. There was a whole range of things happening, so it was a bit hard to process, and there was lots of people coming and going. So I sort of, I was sort of quizzing the nurses there, saying like, is this normal? Is this expected? Like, have you seen this before? They were pretty blasé about it. There were a few other people having reactions too on the beds beside me and things like that, but I don't know if they had passed out or gone through that kind of stuff. So I was starting to feel a bit cold. It wasn't overly a cold day. I was just wearing a t-shirt and jeans, so it definitely wasn't really cold to begin with. So anyway, I eventually walked back to my car. I was still feeling not quite right, so I jumped in my car. And this is one time that I was actually thankful to have a black car, because it was nice and warm. And I did have a jumper in my car, so I managed to throw that on. And I kind of just sat there for a good couple of minutes thinking, all right, should I drive? What should I do? So I called a friend. We had a bit of a chat. I sort of told him what happened, and he was kind of in a bit of disbelief. He was like, are you serious? Like, what the fuck? Do you need someone to come and drive you? Like, are you cool or whatever? And I was like, yeah, look, I think I'll be okay. So it's actually kind of funny, because after telling him what happened to me, he started to laugh a bit, and I'm like, this guy, I'm like, why the fuck is he laughing? And he sort of explained it to me in a funny way, which actually did kind of make me laugh too. So he said, as soon as I would have passed out in that clinic, because there was so many people getting vaccinated, he said pretty much everyone there, I guarantee you, would have started shitting themselves and been like, holy crap, this guy, he just like passed out. And anyway, so that was a bit of a funny situation. But I stayed on the phone to him for maybe 10-20 minutes. I started driving home, we were on the phone, so that was kind of good, and I got probably about halfway home before we ended the phone call, and I drove a further 10 minutes to get home. I wasn't overly far from the clinic, it was maybe a 20-minute drive. So I got home, I already had food prepared. I was at this point feeling very crappy, but I thought, look, I should get some food into my body. So I ate some food and then just literally sat on the couch and kind of passed in and out and was just feeling absolutely awful. I did that for probably a couple of hours. Got up, had a shower, stayed up for maybe another half an hour or so, still feeling absolutely awful, just lightheaded, dizzy, and just went to bed. So now the next morning, that's when things started to probably get a little bit weird. I remember feeling very weak, very tired, slightly nauseous. The things that kind of stood out to me was my heart rate was higher than what it normally is. So my resting heart rate, if I'm just sitting here like this, would generally be anywhere from 50 to 60. So my heart rate, I guess, is kind of low. I did live a very active lifestyle beforehand. To give you some idea on what I would do, I would run, almost every single night for about half an hour or so, possibly walk afterwards, possibly cycle afterwards as well. Weekends would consist of generally something activity based, activity based, something physical. I ride dirt bikes, I ride mountain bikes, and I obviously started to get into running as well. So some days I would actually do all three. I would literally get up, go for a dirt bike ride with my buddies, come back, possibly go for another push bike ride with a friend, and then before bed go for a run. And this was not really uncommon. Like this was just what I was doing, and I was feeling amazing after it. Like it was great to be active and healthy. But anyway, back to the next day after the vac. One of the weirdest side effects was the breathlessness. So I would just literally be walking around my house, and I would feel like I had been running for an hour and a half. Like it was just, it was strange. It was strange to be out of breath from just simply walking around, or if I was just pacing up and down my living room on the phone, I would start to get a little bit out of breath, which was definitely not normal for me. So later that night, there was actually another side effect. I started to get some tingling in the back of my head and on my face as well. It was kind of, I don't know if I'd describe it as pins and needles. Maybe I just call it tingling. It was a tingling sensation, kind of numbing, but it just felt like you kind of lost some feeling there. And I had obviously the sore arm, but to be honest, that was the absolute least of my concerns at this point. I remember not doing much that day. I was literally just trying to feed myself healthy foods, stay hydrated, and just try and look after myself. And I obviously did no exercise due to the fact that I was getting puffed out, just basically walking around, which was weird. So it was really just eating, resting, napping. That was about it. So I remember going to bed that night, and I remember just laying there, kind of just looking at the ceiling and thinking, what the fuck is going on with my body? The whole room was kind of spinning. My heart had this extremely forceful beat. I'd never experienced anything like it in my life. It wasn't a high heart rate. It wasn't beating really fast, but it was just beating extremely hard, to the point where it was basically like moving my body. Look, I'm not a very big guy. I only weigh 67 kilos or so. So that was extremely bizarre. I have never felt like that ever in my life. And the fact that the whole room was kind of spinning and everything was just, it was kind of like you were drunk, you had a really big night, but obviously I wasn't feeling nauseous at this point. It was just like, it was bizarre. I've never felt anything quite like it in my life. It's even hard to describe. Even if I was experiencing it there and then, it would be extremely difficult to describe. I'd never felt anything like it. And naturally I started to get a little bit worried. I'm like, this is not on the common side effects list. So especially the tingling, the forceful heartbeat, the breathlessness, I started to get a bit concerned. So the next day I spoke to a friend, because I do live by myself. So I spoke to a friend, and she offered to keep me company for a couple of days, which was really nice. So we were hanging out, and we were having these side effects, these symptoms continued to last pretty much throughout the whole day. I was getting, the heart palpitations, the forceful heartbeat, the breathlessness. I was definitely not myself. I wasn't quite my chirpy self. So that night we were having dinner. We always have dinner a little bit late. It was probably about 8ish, 8:30 or so. And I don't know, obviously I look like crap, and I remember looking at her and she was looking at me and she's like, "So, do you want to go to the doctor?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's probably a good idea." So that was about probably 8:30, 9 o'clock ish. So we just went to one of those in my area. There's one that's probably about 20 minutes or so away. 24-hour doctor. You can go there. They'll see you. So I went there, rocked up, told them what was happening. Immediately they did an ECG, and that was, what else did they do? The doctor did check my heart with the stethoscope, because at this point I was like, no, like something is wrong. Like it was very bizarre though. It tended to mostly happen when I was standing up and moving around. The lightheadedness, the dizziness, um, the breathlessness. So if I was laying down, it honestly felt a little bit better. I felt, somewhat normal, even by comparison. So they checked my heart. The doctor said, "Look, I'm trying to remember this as best as I can. He basically said, if it gets really bad, go to hospital." There wasn't really anything he could do, to my understanding. And I was like, okay, well, look, I don't like being a burden to the hospital system. I wasn't in any pain, maybe discomfort, I would probably call it, but definitely no severe pain like what other people have written about or spoken about. So that was kind of a positive. So that night, I just ended up going home and went to bed and just kind of just tried to deal with it as best as I could. The next day, I believe, no, sorry, on my notes here, was actually 2 days after that visit, because I think it was on a weekend. So my normal family GP. To be honest, I don't really go to the GP very often. I think it'd probably been maybe 2 years since I'd been there last, and that would have just been for like a checkup kind of thing. Nothing crazy, no prior health issues before. So I had told him what happened, and he wasn't overly concerned about it. He said, "Look, we'll schedule in a echo and a blood test." And I was like, "Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to do the right thing, follow protocol, follow what the professional health advice is being given to me." Um, so I can't remember if it was that day or a couple of days after for the echo. I think the echo was a couple of days after, but the next day I booked in a blood test. Okay, because they couldn't do it at the site, the doctor's surgery that I was at, so I had to get it done elsewhere. So I had my blood test done during the day. No problems, no fainting or anything weird, which was good. But obviously, I was still experiencing these symptoms of lightheadedness, dizziness, fatigue, being fatigued really easy, out of breath, and the tingling started to get worse. Actually, I remember it was not almost constant, but it was very frequent during the day. Later, later that night, I could kind of feel it was kind of like I would have episodes, right? You would I would start to feel something happening in my body, and I'd be like, all right, no, like my heart is starting to be weird. I'm starting to like just my whole demeanor would change. It'd be like a switch was flicked, and it's like, all right, Ben, you're screwed now. You need to suck it up and ride this out. So I was getting sick of dealing with this. Mind you, it had only been oh my god, I think this has been maybe the fourth day or something. I've got here on my notes. It was the 27th. Um, so I ended up calling the nurse on call. I remember trying to call them. I think it was like at a ridiculous hour the day before or something like that, at maybe 2 or 3 in the morning, because I was just having the most bizarre episode ever. But I called the nurse on call because I'm like, look, maybe it's not something to worry about. And like I said, I don't want to burden the health system and go there and waste people's time, because that doesn't help anybody. So I called the nurse on call, told her what happened, what I'd been doing, or what I had done in terms of getting vaccinated. And she basically said, look, go to the emergency room just to get checked out, just to be sure. So I went there. I went. Well, I didn't go there this time. I actually I called a mate and I said, hey, look, I'm going to go to hospital because I feel crap. Like I feel shit house. Like something is fucking wrong with me. And very nice guy. He offered to drive me there. To his credit, he'd probably been up since like 4 in the morning, and it was probably like 7 p.m. at this point. I don't even know if he had dinner. I don't even know. I can't remember if I had dinner. I think I maybe had a snack or something. He offered to drive me, which is great. So he drove me down there, and I was there for a couple of hours. Um, the nurses at the hospital were great. Honestly, the doctor there was great too. But unfortunately, well, fortunately, I guess, like they gave me a blood test and they did an ECG. So uh, the blood test at the hospital, they said was all fine. Um, and I spoke to the doctor about it and I said, hey, look, this is what's happened. Have you seen this before? Has anything happened? And it was a little bit concerning because they did say that I was the eighth person that night who came in experiencing basically the same thing. And obviously the common thing there was the vaccine. So yeah, so skipping back a little bit, when I actually saw the family GP, he did kind of gaslight me a little bit and say, look, hey, it's just, you're being overreactive. It's just anxiety. Like you're anxious. You just have anxiety. Like don't stress about it. Take your mind off things. Blah blah. And look, I understand that's very good advice when someone is known to have anxiety or known to be an anxious kind of person. Generally, I would say I am not an anxious person. I don't really get worried super easy, or I don't know. I'm pretty blasé. Like I'm a pretty chill kind of guy. I don't really stress about things too often here. So yeah, I was a little bit worried, obviously, about what was happening, but it's I didn't pinpoint it to anxiety, that's for sure. But that's what he seemed to blame it off. But anyway, back to the hospital. The nurse and the doctor said I was the eighth person there, which I found a little bit concerning. The advice I was given was basically just continue to monitor it. If it does get worse, come back, and we can go from there. And I was like, well, okay. I mean, that kind of sucks. To be honest, I was kind of hoping for like maybe a magic pill or something to be like, here you go, you'll be right in a couple of days, and you'll be back to normal, doing your running and your biking and all that sort of stuff. But no, that wasn't the case. So after, oh my God, what happened after that? I think I had the echo booked that either the next day or the day after. So I remember getting the echo done. And again, obviously I was trying to get some information from people to be like, how common is this? Am I the only person experiencing this? Is this like the 1 in a million chance of this happening? And it just so happened to me. And the nurse who was performing the echo on my heart said, no, we've had about 30 people this week being looked at for the same thing. And I was like, oh man, this is a little bit concerning. I mean, I guess, look, statistic wise, because I like to think I'm a man of logic and science and reason, I guess statistic wise, if every single person in the state is getting vaccinated, and you have 30 people a week experiencing similar side effects or whatever, I guess statistically it's not proportionate. Yeah, like what would it be? 1%, maybe less, probably less than 1%. I don't know how many people are getting vaccinated, but I assume it would be thousands. That clinic I was at would have been easily maybe 1,000 people more through the day they would have done. But basically, after that, the echo results, apparently my GP said they were all good, which it just makes no sense to me because I'm definitely not the same guy I was pre the vaccine. Okay, like I said, I was very active and running and cycling and riding motorcycles and everything, doing all the things I love to do. Without a care in the world, I would push my body and be out of breath and go for it. It was great. I really loved doing that. Now I'm not so sure that's such a wise idea. Just from having these weird reactions with the heart palpitations. the breathlessness, the dizziness, the tingling. So this pretty much lasted, I want to say, the better part of maybe 2.5, 3 weeks. So for 2.5 to 3 weeks, I was basically a useless human being. It was a convenient time in terms of work because we weren't required to be on site, but I was not very productive working from home. I did the best I could, obviously, but I was still just not myself. And that, yeah, I literally did not do very much at all, especially that first week. It was literally just trying to feed myself and kind of keep in contact with my friends, let them know what was going on, so they could, shoot me a text here and there and be like, "Hey, you going okay? Like, if we haven't heard from you, we'll do something about it, I guess." Yeah. So look, this is now, like I said, it's been 6 weeks. It's nearly been 6 weeks. I'm still not 100%. I don't feel like I did pre-vac. I have done some exercise. I've been going for walks. It probably took about 2-3 weeks before I could comfortably walk around, like outside and go for a leisurely walk. I did try running a couple of times. My heart was beating extremely forceful, and I just decided, look, it's probably not a great idea to do the type of running I was doing before, which, mind you, wasn't like I'm no marathon runner here, but yeah, so I just really took it easy. So yeah, look, at the end of the day, I just wanted to share this experience with people, kind of let them know what I've been going through. And from what I've started to read online, look, initially I thought, look, it's the internet, it's this and that. Like there's not really truth to everything you read, but there is definitely some truth to it. And I feel like for people to understand what could happen, I mean, my reaction is definitely not as severe as what other people have posted about. So I am grateful for that. But I'm also equally concerned when doctors can be kind of blasé about this and just say, it's anxiety, it's in your head, there's nothing wrong with you. When I know my body, okay, I'm definitely a logical kind of guy. There is definitely something not quite right. I can't pinpoint what it is. I can't describe it accurately. I can tell you that it has gotten better, which is positive. This is only from one dose though. So now I'm in an awkward situation where I need to be double dosed to go to work, to essentially survive. And I don't know what's going to happen if I take the second dose. Is it going to give me worse side effects? Will it induce, the myocarditis or the pericarditis, the inflammation of the heart? One doctor did actually say that is what I had, but we didn't do any formal testing or anything like that. I just described to him exactly what was going on with me, and he said, I believe you have an acute version of myocarditis. It's not going to be picked up on any scans or ECGs or blood work because it is acute, it is minor, but he said just take it easy for at least 3 weeks or so. Don't do any intense exercise. Take a Nurofen, so ibuprofen, to help reduce inflammation. Okay, that was some of the advice I got, and honestly, that was actually very good advice, because the ibuprofen, when I did feel like an episode happening or something was not quite right, especially before bed, I did want to try and maintain some type of sleep, some type of good quality sleep at least. The ibuprofen really helped kind of calm it down and calm the palpitations down, where they weren't just shaking my entire body and keeping me up. So you do start to kind of question yourself too. You think, oh my God, is it anxiety? Like someone told me I have anxiety and they're a medical professional. Do you believe that? And that's that's probably something that I can kind of stress to people is, look, if you think something is wrong, and you're not prone to having anxiety attacks, or you haven't had panic attacks or any of those kinds of things, which I haven't. I've never had a panic attack. I've never had that tightness. People describe it as tightness in their chest and they struggle to breathe and all those kinds of things. Never had it. Like I said, don't really get anxious. Been in some crazy situations in my life, and no, it's not really a me thing. So yeah, just kind of think about it logically, and I don't know. It's just a weird. Obviously, probably brain fog was probably another one too that I've been experiencing, but I just wanted to share my story. There's not really much else to say. I guess the positives are the tingling has almost completely gone, which is good. That's really rare now when I do have the face tingling or the back of my head tingling. I have noticed there was at one point where it was spreading through my entire chest, upper body, and a little bit on my legs. I have actually been getting a little bit tingling in my legs, which is kind of weird, but I think that's really almost fully resolved, which is good. People are probably going to ask me, what have I taken to kind of help speed up recovery, if there is going to be a recovery? Will I get back to pre-vaccinated state? I don't know. Again, this is not a sympathy video. My reaction, while I believe is abnormal, and I don't think anybody should ever have to go through this, or anything worse, or even anything less. This is, you can't, in my opinion, if there's risk of something further developing from me taking the vaccine, again, I'm not a doctor, I don't know. All I know is that I had this reaction. And honestly, yeah, it scares me to get the second dose, even though, doctors are saying, look, you'll be fine, or just get the other one, just get AstraZeneca, or just get Moderna, or whatever. Like, I mean, I'm getting so much conflicting information here from professionals, which is concerning, because it's kind of like when you take a car to a mechanic and one says, hey, you got a clutch problem, and the other one says, no, you got a gearbox problem. Or, if you're not familiar with these terms, you're going to be like, what the hell are they talking about? Which is exactly how I feel. I'm like, what are you talking about? How can you just, one of you say this and then someone else says this, and there's no real guarantee that it's going to be fine, is it? There's no guarantee that it'll be fine. I don't know what my body would be like if I got COVID. I assume being, having a reasonably healthy lifestyle and having a pretty good diet and being active, I assume I would be fine without the vaccine. But who knows? I don't believe I've had COVID before, so I couldn't tell you 100%. But it is a shitty situation to be in when I am being coerced and forced basically to get another dose of this vaccination that I had, in my opinion, a adverse reaction to, that I'm still basically going through now, and people are telling me, no, just get it, it's fine. I believe it's not fine. I don't believe that you should be forced to take a second dose when you've had a reaction to the first one. That, to me, that just screams, that doesn't make sense. Like, if you're allergic to peanuts and you find out you're allergic to peanuts, are you going to eat them again? Probably not. No, that makes sense to me. Again, that just seems logical. If you take something that makes you sick, why would you want to take it again? I don't understand. Look, I'm not saying that COVID doesn't affect young, fit, healthy people. Well, young, 30. People. People who are healthy. I don't know. Like, I only know one person personally who has had COVID, and they were double vaxxed, and they said they felt quite ill. They did lose their sense of smell and taste. I think they said they were ill for about a week or two, but obviously made a full recovery. but that person had prior vaccinations before. So and then you hear of people who have it and they're just like, it's just a cold. It was fine afterwards, and that was it. So I don't know how I would have taken it if I do get COVID. I'm assuming eventually everyone's going to get it the way it's looking. So yeah, I would assume I'd rather be in a healthy, fit body that hasn't been affected by anything to take it on, as opposed to having to fight off these side effects from the vaccine. So yeah, I just wanted to share my story. Hopefully it is informative. I've tried to keep my beliefs out of it as much as possible. I mean, obviously, till the end, where I feel that, if there is risk, there should be choice. Especially if you've had a reaction, like, it shouldn't be this difficult to perhaps be exempt from getting the second dose. Whereas most doctors are telling me, unless I've had an anaphylactic reaction, I won't be able to get an exemption. And even then, I've heard of people who have had anaphylactic reactions and they've been informed, no, you can't get an exemption, just go to hospital and they will treat you immediately after receiving it, which again sounds crazy. I'm not too familiar with anaphylactic reactions, but I heard they can be quite severe, potentially resulting in death. So to me, that just sounds crazy. I am not, like I said, I'm not anti-vax. I'm pro-vaccinations and pro-eliminating disease. I just feel that maybe it has to be done in a slightly different way than what we're dealing with now. Especially, like I said, if you've had reactions to it. If you haven't had reactions to it, that is absolutely amazing. That's how it's meant to work. You're not meant to have these adverse side effects where you're dealing with them for weeks, months on end. Some people, potentially a year later, and they still haven't fully recovered. And it's just, I don't know if maybe people are testing for the wrong thing, or why my results are mostly coming back that I'm okay. I can feel in myself that I'm not okay. I am getting better, yes. But also, by the time they took these ECGs, I also did have a 24-hour Holter monitor put on me last week. So that would have been around the fifth week out of it. I would have definitely assumed having that monitor on me that first couple of days afterwards, when I was experiencing those episodes, would have revealed a very different result. But now that it's been 5 weeks, and by the time you go through the rigmarole and booking appointments, the time that passes through, and you kind of try and treat yourself as best as you can. Obviously, you want to get better, but that data there, that could be missing for doctors as well. So I don't know. That obviously doesn't really help them. And the fact that I just kind of say, look, something is not right with me, that obviously doesn't give them much to go on to. So I'm well aware of that. But there's definitely something not quite right. But from a pure political point of view, this is not good. It's even from a social aspect, this video might even trigger some people, and they might be like, this guy is he's overreacting or whatever. But when you're laying there and you can feel your heart just beating absolutely abnormal, like so forceful, I've never felt like anything in my life. Even when it started to flutter as well, that was also, I was like, what the hell is this? I didn't sign up for this. This was not supposed to happen. It's not supposed to happen to anybody. And when you get these reactions, it kind of makes you question things. Question things in a positive way, like I said, I do believe in the science, and I do believe, hey, look, if there's a version 1 of anything, there's always going to be problems, there's always going to be faults, it's not going to be fit for everybody. But if there are issues, like, people, they need to be looked after, they need to not be gaslit by their friends or their family or their co-workers or whoever may be saying such things. So please take it seriously. Vaccine side effects and adverse reactions are real. Don't think otherwise. It might not be portrayed on normal media or normal social media. So there's probably a few things I missed making this video because I kind of went on a bit of a tangent here. But I do want to thank all my friends for looking out for me, and for checking in as often as they did, and for keeping me company, and just honestly just being great human beings. So I love you guys. You're all awesome. But I think that's it. My phone battery has just warned me we're at 10%. So I think I'm going to call it here. 40 minutes of me rambling on. If you just want the short version, had the Pfizer vaccine, tingling, heart palpitations, lightheaded, dizziness. Fitness is nowhere near what it used to be. Obviously, that doesn't help that I haven't really done much in the past couple of weeks, but even then, it was never this bad beforehand. It was never this hard to run or to work out, even when I was unfit. So I think that's it. I reckon that's probably about all I have to say. Like I said, there's probably are a few things that I missed. But yeah, look, just be mindful that there are risks to medications, not just vaccines. Like that's life. Okay, that's life. Obviously, I believe I'll make a full recovery. I am trying to remain in good spirits and be positive. But again, I did want to just talk about this, even though it's probably the most boring fucking video you've ever seen in your life. But I do feel like that it might help people to perhaps hear my story. It's not even like I said, it's not as bad as what other people have done. This is not a sympathy video. I just want to share what happened to me. If other people have had similar issues, I'd love to hear about it. And what have you done? Have you got better? How long did it take? Did you go for the second jab? Did you get side effects? Were they worse? Were they minor? What happened? I'd love to hear about it. So yeah, but anyway, thanks guys. Thanks for watching. If you managed to watch the whole thing, I sat here for this off the cuff. Here we are. Anyway, thanks.